Every single aloe plant you see on this table was started from a single aloe plant that was gifted to us. In this video, we're gonna cover why aloe does not want to be treated like a traditional succulent, how you can help your aloe plants thrive, and how to propagate them. Let's jump right in. There are over 600 species of aloe, and the one I'm holding is known as Aloe barbadensis.
Also known as Aloe Vera, aloe being the genus and Vera meaning true. So this is the true aloe. And humans have been growing this for 6,000 years. It's evolved with humans. This is not like its wild ancestor. It's evolved to lower lighting, higher moisture levels. So what it wants is to not be treated like a desert plant, but instead much more like a house plant. So when we started doing that, it started exploding. Now, the key to understanding why that aloe plant did so much better is to understand its history.
It has been cultivated by humans for over 6,000 years. In fact, it's one of the first ever domesticated medicinal plants. Evidence has even been found that Cleopatra used aloe vera. And it wasn't just the ancient Egyptians who found use for aloe. Aloe was also used in traditional Chinese medicine, by ancient Greek and Roman societies for treating wounds, and by many other civilizations across the globe. It even traveled along the Silk Road, making its way throughout Europe. Because of the thousands of years of selective growing of aloe vera by people, and the need to grow aloe in different growing environments across the world, the aloe that you purchase today is not the same as wild aloe plants. Humans have been selecting and breeding for traits in this aloe plant that work the best for us. Things like more gel production, rapid growth, ability to grow in lower light or less arid conditions. And this has fundamentally changed the growing environment that a wild aloe would need versus a domesticated aloe vera.
Now, the first thing I noticed that made a huge difference was light. Even wild Aloe barbadensis, compared to other succulents, doesn't like a ton of light. In the wild, Aloe barbadensis tends to grow under rocky outcroppings and under other trees near them, so it gets partial shade. But additionally, this has been domesticated for thousands of years, and it has grown in places like castles with very little light, which is crazy to think about. So it has evolved and does really well with diffuse but consistent light. I've found the best spots for it are near a southern window where it's never getting direct light, but it's getting some good ambient light all around it. If you have grow lights, think of treating aloe like a seedling where you want consistent fluorescent or low power LED lighting, and they'll do really well.
So the other thing we did differently than normal succulents or cactus was the way that we water them. Wild aloe can tolerate extremely drought conditions, whereas domesticated aloe likes more regular waterings. I actually started putting all of our aloe on our same weekly houseplant watering schedule. Now, I still used a soil that allowed for good drainage and allowed the aloe to dry out in between waterings, but I was giving them a full watering where I would wait until I even saw runoff coming out of the bottom of the pot, and they exploded.
Now, wild aloe vera lives in really fast draining sandy soils, and your aloe vera will like fast draining soils too, but can tolerate much more water holding capacity than other succulents. I'd actually suggest mixing a desert and cactus blend with the traditional potting soil, perhaps 50-50, and that'll give you some nice water retention because they don't seem to like bone dry like other succulents. They want a little dry and then pretty wet when you do water, like other houseplants.
Okay, so temperatures. If you think of a wild succulent or cactus, they're often out in desert environments like many wild aloe. And if you've ever spent any time in the desert, you know it's very hot during the day and it can get really cold at night. So wild aloe is fantastic at handling really large temperature fluctuations. Well, after 6,000 years of living in people's homes, your domesticated aloe is not as tolerant. We like to keep the temperature right around where you typically like to live at, between 65 and 75.
Now, nutrients. In the wild, they're living in sandy soils with very little organic matter. And I'll tell you, in domesticated situations, they want very little fertilizer. You're much more likely to over-fertilize them than under-fertilize them. In fact, I don't know if I've ever seen an aloe showing symptoms of under-fertilization. So take it easy, you water them, but feed them very sparingly. For us, the only fertilizer we give is fish tank water. The food in there is plenty for them to keep going, and we never add any nutrients in addition to that.
Okay, and the last difference is stress tolerance. As I mentioned, with plants in the wild that are using these huge fluctuations of temperature and rainfall, they can handle a lot of stress. Your domesticated aloe vera, not so much. They're more likely to get sunburned leaves if there's too much direct light, and they are more likely to get root rot if they are waterlogged. So make sure you're letting them dry out between waterings.
Now, to be a great aloe grower, you need to speak aloe. And let's give you a few words of communication they give you. First, one that's very common, if you give it too much light, you're gonna start seeing it turn red, brown, or purple. And that's anthocyanins moving in, and it's basically a sunburn on the plant. And so if you start seeing that, move it into a shadier spot quickly.
If your aloe plant is pale green, it's kind of weak or floppy, or it's really stretching out, it actually doesn't have enough light. It's literally stretching in search of getting more light.
Now, if your leaves start looking mushy, wilty, or gray, that means you're overwatering and you might even have root rot. So you're gonna wanna pull your plant out and see how the roots look and probably transplant. And definitely cut back on watering if you see that.
Now, if you have wrinkling, thin, or even curved leaves, you're probably underwatering. Succulents like aloe should have nice, plump, shiny leaves.
If you have soft and darkening leaves, particularly at the bottom of the plant, that could tell you that your plants are too cold. If they're below 50 or close to that on average, they're struggling, and you're gonna wanna move them to a warmer spot.
And the last way to speak aloe is to be on the lookout for signs of pests. Now, here in the shop, we found that our aloe are usually the last plants in the shop to get pests if we do have a pest outbreak. So you're in luck, they're pretty resistant. But if you see things like grayish dust or sticky residue or even webbing, you're gonna wanna hit them with some sort of pest spray. We found that isopropyl alcohol, neem oil, or even insecticidal soaps work really well on aloe. Happy, healthy aloe will naturally produce lots and lots of pups. If you can believe it, every single aloe plant on this table was started from a single aloe plant that was gifted to us. Now, you may have seen some videos showing that you can just snap a leaf, take this portion, and stick it into some soil and it'll root. Now, unfortunately, we've never seen that work. The best way to propagate aloe is to get a happy, healthy, thriving plant, allow it to produce pups, and then pull those pups off and plant them with their roots.
Propagation is so easy with these guys. They literally start shooting pups out, as this one has, and we've been cleaning this up, and you can see they literally will expand so heavily, they'll start falling right out of the pot. We had that happen yesterday. But when it's time, and you see these pups shooting up, you can just get your finger in there and try to pull them in and try to get some root matter to go with it, right? And look at this, bam, so easy, right? And now you take a pup, and when you want to replant, literally, watch this. I can just pop it right in the soil here like that. I mean, give it its own pot, of course, and that will take just fine and do great. We hope that this gives you a really easy way to grow your domesticated aloe incredibly well.
If you liked this video and want more tips on how to grow life where you live, make sure to like and subscribe. See you next time.
Bye.